The Titans lost to the Rams on Sunday, and we're going to break down our biggest concerns and red flags about Brian Callahan after this game. Plus, we're going to spin things positive and look in the optimistic direction, why things could still go right this season. A tale of two pods here. This is the Music City Audible. Let's get to it. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Music City Audible podcast presented by Sinkers Beverages, the premier wine, spirits, and beer store in East Nashville in partnership with 440 Sports. I'm Justin Graver. With me as always, Justin Melo. Justin, yesterday live right after the game, we did our instant reaction, sort of shared some takes that were not fully baked, hadn't rewatched the film, hadn't listened to the press conference. I gotta say, in yesterday's show, I didn't have a lot of emotion. I was like, this is what I expected from this team coming into the year. The defense is bad. The offense is a work in progress at best. The team is still young and growing up and learning how to win football games. I wasn't expecting them to go compete with a Super Bowl champion Rams, despite the fact that you and I both picked the Titans to win this game on our preview podcast. But after rewatching the game last night and listening to Brian Callahan, I am torn. I am both more optimistic about what this team can be this season and also more concerned about Brian Callahan as the head coach of this team, because I think yesterday we agreed this wasn't an egregiously bad game. There are things to take away. There are obviously things to improve, but he didn't go out and cost them the game like he did in week one. And if every game is sort of more or less like this, but maybe a little better, then Callahan would probably earn a third year as the head coach. I am more concerned today than I was yesterday. How are you feeling, my friend?
Well, I feel contractually obligated to say I'm doing well, but if the Titans don't win a game at some point, I'm going to be doing bad. You know, I don't know where to go from here, but they're 0-2, but I am doing well. I think for the most, I share a lot of your concerns. I think it's going to be a really good conversation, some back and forth. The jury remains out on Brian Callahan, no doubt about it. Titans have lost, 8 straight games? 8 straight games dating back to last season, right? They finished the year on a 6-game losing streak. Thank God for that, because they had the number 1 pick because of it and drafted a good quarterback in Cam Ward. But when you've lost 8 straight games, 5 straight at home, you know, that needs, I don't want to get into this, but they panned to that crowd at the beginning of the game before it started. I'm like, damn, number 1 overall pick, home debut. And I saw a lot of empty seats, not a lot of energy in the building. I've seen a lot of locals, you know, people I follow, people I know well, tweeting today that the fan experience is so bad in that stadium, and just, yeah, it's a down moment, it's a down era for the franchise right now. But hope springs eternal, and Cam Ward does have me very, very hopeful. I'm not just saying it. I'll throw it back to you so we can actually get into the discussion aspect piece of this podcast.
Yeah, so I'm going to go through 3 red flags that I have raised on Brian Callahan. Each one progressively more red, more a higher raised flag.
Is the first one magenta? Then what's the color of the first flag?
They're each more concerning as we go.
The third one's maroon.
Yeah, the third one is blood red. It's just like death, blood. No, so my major Callahan concerns we'll get to in just a moment. First, I want to remind everyone to please subscribe to the channel. Look, we set ourselves a week ago today, Justin, we set a goal of reaching 5,000 subscribers by the end of week 2. That means we have the rest of today, because Monday Night Football 2 games still haven't been played yet. So we are not at the end of week 2 yet. We are, as of this recording, 64 subscribers away from our goal, which is... Look, we'll be real with you guys. Based on what our channel is, 64 subs in one day is a lot, a shitload even. So we could really use your help. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening to this on audio and you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, you can listen to it on audio, that's fine. But pop over to the YouTube page, Music City Audible Podcast, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just help us push that number up so we can hit our goal so that we don't feel like losers and failures, much like the way I feel the Titans as an organization right now are losers and failures. Hit that subscribe button, like the video, drop a comment below as we get into this Callahan red flag conversation. I want you guys to let me know if you agree with the red flag, or if you have your own red flags, or if you disagree. So drop your thoughts. Yes, Justin.
I feel like Brian Callahan after giving a press conference after a failure, because we're not hitting 5,000 today, and it's a loss. And look, we got to take ownership and accountability. We got to coach better, got to play better, got to podcast better. It is what it is for us to hit 5,000. But I mean, we'll get this cleaned up. We'll get there eventually.
And maybe we'll set more realistic goals going forward, or maybe not. Maybe we'll ask for 6,000 by next Monday. That would be crazy, but we'll see. We'll see how we take that. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Let's get into this conversation. I have major concerns about Brian Callahan continuing to be the head coach of this franchise, and I'm going to start with my lowest level concern. The end of the first half sequence. We talked about it a lot on yesterday's pod. It's been the subject of much discussion. Should the Titans have been more aggressive? They get the ball at the 32-yard line with 23 seconds left, 2 timeouts, and they proceed to run the ball, hand it off to Tony Pollard twice in a row, take the clock down to 3 seconds, and kick the field goal to take a 13-10 lead into halftime. Now, what I will say about this, Justin, is overall, if you're just looking at a team that is trying to win a football game, I do ultimately agree with Callahan's decision here. You're up against a tough opponent, a tough defense. You drop back to pass there. Cam Ward might get sacked. He might turn the ball over. He's a rookie in just his second game ever. Like, there are concerns there with wanting to protect the ball and make sure you get points on the board so that you can take that lead into halftime, knowing that you're kicking off to start the second half and the other team's going to get a chance to answer. Like, go take a lead. I'm fine with that. However, this is not in a vacuum. There is context to this situation. And it goes back to what we talked about all offseason. What is the point of this season, right? The point of this season is twofold. It's number one, to find out if Brian Callahan is your head coach. That's secondary. Number two, and most important, is Cam Ward a franchise quarterback, and can he be the guy that leads your team to a new era of success, especially on offense? So from that standpoint, I'm disappointed that they decided to be conservative. Before I really get into this, here's Brian Callahan on the decision not to take a shot or two towards the end zone at the end of that half.
Just because of the distance to the end zone, it would have been I just didn't want to do anything where we put the ball in harm's way in that particular moment after a big turnover and a chance to go kick the field goal and take the lead, going into half. I thought that was a huge 10-point swing for us, and so I wanted to make sure we took the points there.
Again, in a vacuum, totally fine with this approach. However, in the context of the situation, Cam Ward in his second NFL game, look, at the end of the day, wins and losses don't matter this season. And everyone has acknowledged that. The front office has acknowledged that indirectly by saying, like, well, we always have high expectations, but we're also realistic. They acknowledge that with the way they attack the roster, by leaving holes like the edge position gaping because they know they're more than a year away, right? They know that the point of this season is to develop Cam Ward and find out if he is your guy for the long haul. Let him throw the ball. Like, field goals do not win football games unless they're kicked as time expires at the end of a game. Touchdowns win football games. If Cam Ward drops back to pass here and takes a bad sack that knocks you out of field goal range at this point in the game, that's a teaching moment. If Cam Ward drops back to pass and throws an interception because he's trying to get too aggressive in the end zone, that's a teaching moment. Let him go make the mistake. You're not going to find out what he can do, what special traits he can do to elevate the offense like he did on that 3rd and goal touchdown, the only touchdown the Titans have scored this entire season. He elevated the play of everyone else around him. That play was dead when he got to the top of his drop. Nobody's open. He buys time. He makes an amazing play. Let him go make amazing plays. And if he's not going to make an amazing play every time, if he's going to mess up, if he's going to throw an interception and you go into the half 10-10 because he threw an interception there, he didn't get the field goal, like 3 points really matter that much against the Rams offense. This is my lowest concern. What is Callahan's priority here? Callahan's priority is to win the ball game. And I understand you got a roster full of guys that want to win the ball game. He's got his job on the line. He's got to win ball games. That's all great. But what if Cam Ward actually makes a play there? What if Cam Ward actually throws a touchdown pass or gets you down to the 5-yard line and gets you in a position to get 7 points instead of 3? That's how you beat a team that has overmatched you in skill at almost every position on the roster and talent on their roster. They're a better team. You got to steal touchdowns when you can. And if the concern is that your rookie quarterback is going to turn the ball over potentially, That's something you got to let him do and then teach from that moment. Because again, if he throws the interception, who cares? You're not winning this game anyway. Yes, they were winning at the time and they thought they could win the game, but you have a better chance to win this game if you get 7 points here than 3. So to me, it's about the development of Cam Ward. Let him go try stuff. Let him learn. If he's going to make a mistake, let him make the mistake. If he's going to make a great play, let's see it happen, because he's not getting enough opportunities to do that.
It's a catch-22 here, and I get what you're saying, but I also feel pretty strongly the other way. Like, you started off your statement by saying wins and losses don't matter this year. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, we're supposed to keep that mindset, but is everyone not freaking out on Twitter right now because they're 0-2? Like, people, like, all that stuff, all that sort of logic goes out the window when the bullets start flying. People are frustrated. People are calling for jobs. Like, winning and losing does matter, right? Like, it matters to a degree because people quickly forget what's really at stake this year when you actually start losing. The other thing is, look, I know it's not the same, but I occasionally think we're letting the results drive this too much. Like, at the end of the half last week when he got aggressive, okay, that's a different situation. I didn't like that one at all. I said go conservative, run the ball, get to halftime. When he didn't do that, everyone was freaking out over going aggressive. But I think the example that's more relevant to this situation is the one that they got the ball in Broncos sort of scoring range. They didn't. They went aggressive. They took a couple sacks out of field goal range. You came on here and said, why didn't they run the ball on first, second, third? Why didn't they just preserve that opportunity to get points? So he preserves the opportunity to get points, and we're kind of dogging him for that too. The Colts yesterday won a football game 29-28 against the Denver Broncos, okay? When they got the ball, I wrote this down, 32-yard line, down 2 points, 3:15 left in that game, okay? They've got to go win the game. First 3 plays on that drive, Jonathan Taylor runs. Okay, he was having a good game, but pretty conservative. Four straight runs, Jonathan Taylor. The first and only pass of that entire drive came on 3rd and 6 after they had no choice but picked up 7 yards pass, 3rd and 6. The next 3 plays, 3 more Jonathan Taylor runs, including 3rd and 7 from the 40-yard line with a kicker named Spencer Schrader, who has not made a 50-yard field goal this year. They lost 2 yards on that 3rd and 7 and settled for a 60-yard field goal with Spencer Schrader. He missed it terribly. They got bailed out by a boneheaded penalty and made the 45-yard follow-up kick. Not one person this morning calling Shane Steichen too conservative on that drive. I mean, have you seen it? Maybe I missed it.
Yes.
Okay, I mean, look, if they miss that kick and don't get the follow-up, I think everyone's jumping down his throat.
Yes.
So, but what I saw this morning is the Colts haven't punted yet through 2 weeks. Adam Schefter tweeted that. They put up 29 points. Daniel Jones is who rose from the dead. Was it Jesus? I know that, by the way. I'm kidding. Daniel Jones is the second coming of Jesus Christ. He's risen from the dead in Indianapolis after his career was left for dead by the New York Giants. That was as conservative as it got. Someone left a comment on the live stream yesterday. I wish, not like it's actually in the comment section. I wish I could go find it. I didn't have time to. About how apparently Nick Sirianni had like a sequence yesterday with the Eagles that was ultra conservative, and they're the Super Bowl defending champions. Sean McVay yesterday, who again, and some of these things are earned. I guess Sean McVay's got a way longer leash. I get it. Kicked a field goal against the Titans yesterday from the 3-yard line after going past 3 straight times. Maybe that's the opposite, but it's too aggressive. How did he not call one play and then kicking? That was first aggressive. And then kicking a field goal. I like the Titans. I'm like, give them the ball on the 3-yard line. If I don't, their own 3, if I don't convert here, they're going to take a safety. They're going to commit a holding penalty in their own end zone and punt. Like, I'm not afraid of, like, Sean McVay made a terrible call there, but he's Sean McVay, and he made 2 bad calls, ultra aggressive and then ultra conservative on 4th down. So NFL coaches, they do this shit.
Yeah, but that's not an excuse for Brian Callahan. And what the Colts did was malpractice egregious that, like you said, the kicker blows the kick because they don't even try to be aggressive to get closer than 60 yards. They get lucky that a questionable flag came out on the Broncos. On the Titans, on the whole, double, what's the word? It's a lose-lose situation for Callahan. Can't think of the word. Let me know in the comments.
Sword?
No, that's not it. No, I don't know. It's there, but it's not there. Let me know in the comments if you know what I'm talking about. The contradiction, I guess, is that, yes, last week I asked him to be more conservative and kick that field goal. It's different points in the game. You're late third quarter last week in a winnable situation where you need to just go take the lead to feel good about where you're at in the game. It's different than it's 10-10 or it's 13-10. You're playing well overall. The offense was in a rhythm at that point. They had just, scored the touchdown on the previous possession. That was the moment where they're feeling themselves a little bit. Let them continue that. I think the game context calls for a different reaction. And again, in a vacuum, I'm okay with being conservative and taking the points there. But this season is about developing Cam Ward, and you got to give him chances to make mistakes or to make great plays. And that's how I feel about it. Again, to me, this isn't a massive red flag. It's a little concerning that Callahan is prioritizing his own job security over the development of Cam Ward, because theoretically the development of Cam Ward will lead to his job security and he won't have to worry about wins and losses as long as the quarterback plays well. But I also understand that, again, there's a whole roster of players who are trying to win this game and they're not there to watch their coach blow it with a bad decision again for the second week in a row. I get it. It's the least egregious concern I have. Just something I was thinking about. It's like, man, just let him rip one. See what happens. If he throws a pick, who gives a shit? Yeah, we would give a shit, but we would also, in the grand scheme of things,
complaining probably if you threw a
but
pick.
In the grand scheme of things, it's not the worst thing that could happen. Let's move on to my next red flag here.
Is this the fuchsia color flag? Which one is this one?
Yeah, we're getting more red here. This is one that I think all Titans fans are extremely frustrated by. The Titans players are frustrated by it. If you listen to them talk at their lockers after the game yesterday, Peter Skoronski in particular was very adamant about how bad this is and how disappointing it is for all of them. It's the penalties. Now, the Titans don't have nearly as many penalty yards as they had in week 1 yesterday. They didn't give up as many first downs off penalties as they did in week 1 yesterday, but 10 penalties is still way too many penalties. 13 penalties last week was the most penalties the Titans have had in a week 1 game in 42 years, since 1993, I think. That's crazy. 32 years, whatever it is. 32 years the most penalties have had in a week 1 game with 13. And it's been an issue for Callahan's entire tenure as the Titans head coach. Now, on the one hand, I will say Callahan has coached talent deficient teams. And when you're at a talent deficiency and you can't win a rep against the guy across from you because he's just way better than you and more physically gifted, sometimes you have to commit a penalty to try to win the rep. And you're not trying to do it, but it just happens because you get beat and you're trying to win and you don't want your quarterback to get blown up. So you grab a guy's shoulder pad, or you get burned in the secondary. You don't want to give up a touchdown. So you grab a guy's jersey. It happens. I understand it happens. But at a certain point, it's a problem, and the head coach's job is to fix the problems. And he hasn't fixed this problem. He hasn't even come close to fixing this problem, and he doesn't know how to fix the problem. They did so much this offseason in an effort to fix this problem, and it didn't work at all. That's a direct reflection on the head coach not being good enough to get these guys where they need to be. Here's Callahan talking about the penalty issue.
It's something that I'm still trying to figure out. I think we had a couple false starts today. We had just an illegal lineman downfield on the first drive, which is, you just got to come flatter on the screenplay, and just things that are just frustrating. It was very frustrating to be in that spot. It's obviously something that we had a problem with last year. It was a problem before. It's still a problem, and we're trying like hell to get it fixed. And so far, we haven't been successful at doing that.
He doesn't know how to fix the problem. That's an issue. If your head coach doesn't know how to fix a problem on his roster, he's got to figure something out. He's got to go to his assistant coaches, to his former head coaches, to his dad, to his bosses, the GMs, and say, does anyone have an idea? Do we just have an idea? I'm not asking you to tell me what to do or how to fix this, but give me an idea that we can try to execute, because I'm fresh out.
Yeah, I don't want to say I'm torn on this one, because at the end of the day, I agree with you that it comes with the job description, and the sample size is large enough now that it's been such a recurring problem that it's hard to put blame anywhere else. I do agree with you that, stuff like holding on an offensive tackle, that's not a coaching issue, right? Like you get beat and you panic. Same thing at corner. I think you get beat and panic. Like, I don't think that's a coaching issue. Yeah, some technique things maybe you can do, especially early on in a rep that are coaching points. But for the most part, I think post-snap penalties are often more a result of a talent deficiency than they are a coaching issue. Now, pre-snap, I think, is more so on coaching, but it can be a little bit of both. And what I mean by that is, like, when John Njoku false starts on that third down, I know maybe that's a hyper-focused example, but that's a tackle making his first career start who's, up against a really good pass rusher. And I've never been an offensive tackle in a third down situation that you got to pass, like, you're passing the ball. That is such a high pressure situation. When you're John Njoku and you're not a routine starter and you're putting so much pressure on yourself to perform, like, I'm not shocked that happens, and I don't think you can do a whole lot to coach that out of John Njoku, right? Like, I'm pissed off when Trent Williams does it. Well, I'm pissed off when Dan Moore does it because he's played enough, right? Like, you got to get that out of your system. And the only way you do that is through experience. So, and I thought some of those penalties yesterday, I said this during the live stream, I still maintain it. I think we're going to look at the box score and probably dump more of it on coaching than is actually the case, because it's easy to dump on them right now because it's been a recurring problem. But Cedric Gray, I think he knows that rule on special teams. On top of it, I think Chimere Dike is gone anyway. Like, why are you even doing it? James Williams has had multiple, flip side, apparently someone tweeted, James Williams had like 3 holding penalties on special teams in 2 games. You've got to figure that out, coach it out of him, or replace him in that role. Like, I'm not going to continuously put James Williams out there, but I thought about half of the penalties yesterday probably weren't on coaching. And it did get better as it went on. Like, I felt they had a ton of them early in the first half, and they didn't have many of them in this, or I don't know if they had any. I mean, they must have, but most of those penalties came in the first half. So for me, I think yesterday wasn't as much on coaching as previous examples have been, but I'm not going to really sit here and excuse them because, as you said, recurring issue, feels like every single game, and the sample size now is big enough to say, hey, you got to get this fixed.
And the fact that he says, I don't know how to get it fixed, but I'm trying to figure it out, is a concern. If he is like, look, I have a plan, we're going to get this taken care of, I understand it's a major issue, but I know what I'm going to do about it, then it's a different conversation. When he's openly admitting he has no idea how to fix this problem, that's just a red flag. I'm not saying it means he's going to get fired this year for sure and the Titans are done and they're going to win 2 games or whatever. It's a red flag. It's a thing. It's an eyebrow raiser to keep an eye on.
The reddest flag on the list.
The reddest flag, or the most red, or the most concerning red flag here. This is like, don't go out on the beach. The surf is too high.
Crazy
That's what the red flags
girlfriend
are.
Red flag.
Yeah, like massive concern.
You live in LA. How do you not the tides? No, wouldn't it be the tide? How did you mess up that sentence?
Yeah, it has something to do with like the wind and surfing and stuff, right? That's what the red flag, orange flag,
I'm in
yellow
Canada.
flag.
I don't know. You should know this.
Let me know in the comments if you have any idea what I'm talking about. Okay, this one to me, this would be the reason that Callahan ends up getting fired if it happens. This would, to me, be the thing that is most indicative of his inability to be a head coach, and it is the lack of second half adjustments. The consistent lack of second half adjustments, dating back to week 1 of last year when the Titans take a 17-0 lead into halftime against Chicago and lose the game 24-17 because they fail to score a point in the second half. It's not just because they had a punt blocked and returned for a touchdown. It's not just because Will Levis got strip sacked, and it's not just because Will Levis threw a horrible pick 6. It's also because they didn't make second half adjustments. And that continued throughout the entirety of last season, and it continues so far this season. They have got to be able to play better in the second half than the first half. They have got to be at their best in the fourth quarter, not at their worst. Last year, the Titans had the worst point differential in fourth quarters over the course of the season. This year, they are trending towards that after Sunday's game against the Rams. This is a massive, massive issue. Callahan was asked after the game, how do you maintain any sense of the momentum and success that you have in the first half into a second half. Why hasn't that been a successful thing for you as the coach of the Titans? And here is what Callahan said about that.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll look at that. I'll take a long look at and see where we can be better there. I don't have a great answer for you. We didn't really try to change anything in what was working for us. So I'd try to keep going back to those things and change up some formations and things like that. But we just got to do a better job coming out from the half, certainly.
We didn't really try to change anything. Just try to go back to what was working for us. Well, guess what? Sean McVay in the locker room at halftime is changing things. He's taking away what's been working for you. You can't just keep doing it. You got to, number one, anticipate what adjustments they're going to make, have counters to what you're running in the first half so that when the other team makes those second half adjustments, you come out and show them something new that they weren't expecting to see in the second half because you didn't run it in the first half or whatever it is. You have got to make adjustments to what the other team is doing. You can't just keep doing the same thing and try to go back to what was working and change some formations here and there. Like, you got to have a real game plan, a second half game plan. Brian Callahan needs to start coming up with 2 game plans during the week. The first half game plan and the second half game plan, where he's going to surprise the opponent with something they haven't seen yet. This is another situation where he needs to go into his assistant coach's offices and his boss's offices and talk to anyone he can talk to, his dad, his former people he's worked with who aren't even on the Titans staff, and say, what am I doing wrong? Because our team in the second half has been the worst team in the history of football, second half wise. I mean, it is inexcusable that we are 19 games into the Brian Callahan coaching experience, and he has not, to my recollection, made a single successful second half adjustment in 19 games. It's crazy to me. This is a massive, massive red flag.
I agree with you. It is the reddest flag. And that answer, I hadn't seen it yet. I thought it was the worst one that he gave out of all the ones you
And it's the second time I played a clip where he says, I don't have a good answer for you. I don't really know. Like, you got to know. You're the coach. You got to know these things.
Yeah, I think I had mentioned to you, one of my buddies who's a Rams guy, doesn't work in the business, but he's a smart fan, a very smart fan, texted me yesterday. He's not exposed to a whole lot of Titans football. Why would he be? And he said to me, Justin, my takeaway is right QB, wrong coach. After watching you guys, he said, I said it yesterday on the live stream. I'll say it again. He pointed it out to me. He goes, you had 34 yards of offense in the second half before the Rams went soft at the end there. 34 yards. He goes, and you talk about, like, at this point that he made pairs really well with what Callahan just said, actually. And I didn't think of it yesterday because I hadn't seen that comment yet. He goes, he's just spamming the same concepts over and over again, I felt like, is what my buddy said to me. And I said, and I let Callahan off the hook in my text exchange. I said, well, when they got Ward rolling out, they ran that concept a couple times, but it hit to Calvin Ridley a couple times, manufactured explosives. Yes, they were spamming the screens, but they had a concern there at right tackle. Like, I wasn't shocked they did some of that, over and over again. But when you get to the second half, no doubt about it, Sean McVay adjusted both offensively and defensively, right? Not just on one side of the ball. The Rams outscored the Titans, 23-6, I believe, in the second. And one of those Titans field goals was down. They're down 17, and they try one at the end there. So they were just severely outclassed throughout the second half, no doubt about it. It has been a consistent issue throughout the Callahan era. 34 yards of offense, and I said it yesterday. Like, Cam Ward missed one down the sideline to Shimmeray DK. He had a strip sack. If you want to play the blame game here and shift some of it, I could also point out that I think was it Easton Freeze on Twitter? Someone said, at times this felt like the Titans are a group of 5 team, and they had a halftime lead against a Power 5, and then we know the Rams have a way better roster. We know they're a Super Bowl caliber team. The Titans are rebuilding. Like, you can maybe excuse some of it that way. It's just the talent eventually wins out, and that's what happened to a degree in the second half. But again, not letting Callahan off the hook, I absolutely think that second half adjustments have been a consistent issue for him. And it's a recurring problem. That and the penalties, they're 2 major, major recurring problems. And with the penalties, I made a couple excuses for him. But with the adjustments, I'm having a lot harder time, finding the silver lining, if you will.
Honestly, I can't find one here. This is an area that if we don't start seeing rapid improvement, he's got to go. And I don't feel right now that Callahan has got to go. Like we're gonna spin this into the positives here now, as we've talked about the biggest concerns we have. And I do have some positives still to say about this team, despite where this podcast is. Again, this is a Tale of Two podcast, like I said in the intro.
This part's gonna be a lot shorter, though, I think, than the
than
the red flags was.
So yeah, like I don't think it's over for Callahan, but it's time. It's time to like make a change and get better. This is you got to do it. You have the quarterback. I'm confident that you have the quarterback. It's time to get better now. And to be fair, like the pass protection in this game was pitiful and they're overmatched and the Rams have great pass rushers. But you can help mitigate that with some play action stuff. You know, they tried the screen games. The screen games didn't work too well, but you can also run play action. It worked on play action. Those 2 catches by Ridley crossing across the field as Ward's rolling out wide open. I mean, you got to run more of that. The Titans ran play action on just 14.6% of their dropbacks, according to Next Gen Stats. Zach Lyons tweeted that out this morning. Only 4 pass attempts off play action. That's it? Against this front? Are you kidding me? That's your second half adjustment. Add more play action. It worked in the first half. Find a way to make it work again in the second. I don't know. I'm at a loss on this one because I just think this is a very important thing. The Titans cannot lose the coaching battle every time they play another team. And so far, it feels like they do. They lose it every time because the other coach is making better adjustments and making better in-game decisions than Brian Callahan. That cannot continue if he wants to be the head coach of the Titans. I'm ready to spin this positive. Justin, did you have one more thing to say there or no?
Yeah, no, I get the impression that he just doesn't love play action, like by his nature, for whatever reason, because they didn't do it in Cincinnati really at all very much. But again, you got to be able to adjust to the personnel and don't got to do a whole lot of play action. You don't got to trick the defense when you're just better than them. And they were just better in Cincinnati because they got Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins, right? That's not necessarily the case here. So I do think he's got to adjust and include more play action. And I think, even Tic Tac on Twitter, Locked On Titans, he brought up a point. He brought up a good point. He said, hey, I think it was him who said, that we complained about it last year with Will Levis. We thought Will Levis was a good play action quarterback. They didn't do it last year, not doing it this year. I do get the impression that he just doesn't like it, but that's not a good enough reason, right? You've got to be able to adjust to your personnel. I think the only silver lining I have, but it's a major one to talk about the positives. And I talked about wins and losses. When the losses start stacking, maybe people start losing sight of what's important. I think most of us came into the year saying Brian Callahan will be judged on how Cam Ward performs. He will keep his job if Cam Ward looks good. If there warrants continuity, then they're going to keep Brian Callahan. The offense hasn't been overwhelmingly successful by any stretch of the imagination, but I think we're all in agreement that Cam Ward looks really good as a quarterback, right? Like, they've played 2 outstanding defenses, and Cam Ward has been phenomenal, in my opinion. Like, when you take everything into account, rookie quarterback, 2 great defenses, all that, like, Cam Ward has been phenomenal. So that's major silver lining, is that he talked about getting Cam Ward ready to play and what we did in Cincinnati to get Joe Burrow ready and trying to replicate that. I think that's been a pretty big success when you look at it in a vacuum, where Cam Ward's been great.
Yeah, and I'm looking to spin this positive, Justin, more so than finding silver linings, but I appreciate that one. I think it's a good one. Cam Ward does look great, and there were some plays that he missed in Sunday's game, and we're going to grade Cam Ward's performance tomorrow and, get going on where we're at with the confidence of the team. We'll revisit all that stuff tomorrow. We're also going to talk about, Justin, tomorrow, where the Titans have actually improved since last season. What areas of football are they better at? What areas of football are they about the same at? And where are they worse than they were last year? Because there's a few areas that I think they're actually worse. So we're going to talk about that, because part of this whole Callahan conversation is showing improvement as a team overall. And that's, from the first quarter to the fourth quarter, getting better as the game goes along, and from week 1 to week 18, getting better as the season goes along. So that's one of my big silver linings, not silver linings. What did I just say? That's one of my big ways to spin this positive, Justin, is that it's only week 2, and you don't want to be playing your best football in week 2. In fact, you want to be playing your worst football in weeks 1 and 2. Hopefully, this is the worst football that the Titans will play this year. It's probably not. They're probably going to have a game where they get absolutely blown out. But you look at the schedule, and while they'll probably be underdogs in just about every game on this schedule, I look at two possibilities where they might be favored: at Cleveland and at home against New Orleans. Cleveland is week 14, New Orleans week 17.
Late in the year.
The fact that it's at Cleveland makes me think Cleveland will be favored. That defense is legit.
It depends. It's too early.
I know they got. It's too early to say, but I'm just like theoretically.
They're going to be in a lost season. Maybe Myles Garrett's on IR. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and maybe Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel starting at quarterback. But if that game was this week, I think Cleveland would be favored because it's in Cleveland.
Probably.
And their defense, while they gave up 41 points to Baltimore, it was like they held them. They competed for a while, and then it's sort of like the Titans against the Rams. The dam just broke, and with no support from the offense, eventually the Ravens offense is going to put up points on you. So Cleveland week 14, New Orleans week 17 at home. I think the Titans are favored in that game, depending on who the quarterback is for New Orleans and how well they've been playing. But if that game was this week, I do think the Titans actually might be favored. But every other game on the schedule, they're going to be underdogs, and that includes Arizona, Las Vegas, New England, definitely the Chargers, definitely the Seahawks, definitely the Jags. They got to play the Niners and the Chiefs in weeks 15 and 16. Those are the only two actually good teams left on their schedule, though. Right? I mean, all these other teams have, I guess the Chargers, we could probably put the Chargers in that conversation this season. The Jags, they have their flaws. The Colts, Daniel Jones is their quarterback. As good as the Colts have looked through 2 weeks, they have their flaws. The Texans haven't really looked that good. We'll see how they look tonight. But they have their flaws. We know the Cardinals, the Raiders, the Patriots, the Seahawks, the Saints. All those teams are beatable teams. I mean, the Chiefs are obviously a beatable team. They're 0-2, just like the Titans are. The Niners, who knows who their quarterback's going to be when we get to that point of the year. So there are like reasons for optimism in looking at this schedule, I think was my overall point here. It's only week 2. Like, this is a very small sample size to judge a team on. They have a chance to get better. It's Cam Ward's first 2 games. It's the first 2 games that this group of offensive linemen in these positions have played together, and they didn't even have J.C. Latham yesterday. They're going to get J.C. Latham back. They're going to get Tavondre Sweat back. Like, they haven't lost anybody for the year. The rookies are continuing to look good. They will become bigger and bigger parts of the game plan every single week. Like, I think there are still reasons to believe that this team can win between 5 and 8 games. They got to show that ASAP. Like, win the divisional match. You got a divisional matchup against the Colts at home. You got to show that. You don't have to win, but you got to show that you could have won if certain elements had broken your way a little bit better. You got to go play a good game. You got to play clean. You got to protect the ball. You got to not commit penalties. You got to be disciplined. And you got to score.
Yeah.
You got to show second half adjustments, and you got to score some fucking touchdowns. You cannot keep kicking field goals every time. But I think as I talk about
Sly off waivers in my fantasy league, the guy's just an animal.
I think that's a smart call. But the overall point is that it's only week 2. There are reasons to believe that this team can still put some pieces together. We've seen flashes. Kevin Ridley said that at his locker yesterday. You're seeing flashes. They just got to stop beating themselves. And again, the wake-up call that I talked about last week, like, they committed fewer penalties this week. Maybe they're trending in the right direction. We got to get that number under 10 for sure. Let's try to get it under 6 maybe. And Peter Skoronski, like I said, talked about it, how like they see the data of practices where the penalty numbers are coming in at and how that it's where they want them to be. And then they get out there in the game and it's like they forget everything that they've been practicing. So not a whole lot of reasons to be positive, but a few.
I'm just going to end this by saying I agree that they're going to be underdogs in almost every game, but you've got a cluster coming up here of some winnable games. The Colts, the Texans, the Patriots, the Cardinals. I think those are their next 5 games. The Raiders. Yes, I've finished it. Like, those are their next 5 games. All better teams than you are, but not elite teams. Winnable games that you should be competitive in. And you've got to pull 1 or 2 of them out because you can't be 0-7, right? Like, I mean, you can be mathematically, but I don't know how you survive 0-7 as a head coach. That's a really tough spot to be in. So we'll see what they do in these next 5 games. I'll be paying very close attention because, again, I think it's a cluster of winnable games. Be nice if they won 1 or 2 of them, but we're going to keep tracking the progress here as we go.
And just for put everything in perspective, when the schedule came out, almost every Titan fan in the world was like, looking at the schedule like, maybe they can steal one of these first 2 games, but let's be realistic. They're probably starting the year 0-2. But if they can get out of those first 4 games at 1-3 or 2-2, then we'll feel okay about where this team's at. They still have a chance to do that. If they come out of this stretch 1-3, that's not the worst place to be. If they show a little bit more improvement over the next 2 games, and let's also keep in mind, as much as we like what we've seen from Cam Ward, he's only played 2 games. And on that topic, him and Brian Callahan have only worked together on a game plan, on the play calls during a game for 2 games. They're going to continue to understand each other more and more as the season goes on. Callahan will understand what Cam Ward is best at, what he likes to run in certain situations. Ward will continue to understand why Callahan is calling plays that he's calling in certain situations. His Ward's situational awareness in terms of the game management factor is going to continue to improve. These guys are going to get better as the season goes on. The question is, can the team get better as the season goes on? Can Brian Callahan get better as the season goes on? If you want to believe that they can, it's still okay to believe that they can. If the evidence is telling you don't believe that, you don't have to believe it. I'm struggling to believe it, but I'm going to keep watching every week because Cam Ward's fun to watch, and because I want to see, can we just have this as fans of a sports team? Can we just have some improvement here and not be a laughing stock? Can we just look like a professional operation out there? That's what I'm hoping for. And that's it. That's the podcast. Shout out to Sinkers Beverages for supporting the channel. Shout out to all of you for supporting the channel. Remember what I said at the top. We're trying to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the day. That is not going to happen. But if you guys mash the shit out of that subscribe button, send our channel to everyone you know, and say, hey, do my buddies a favor, subscribe to their YouTube channel. Just really make a push here to get us over 5K before the end of week 2. We really appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Should have drop a comment below. Red flags on Brian Callahan. Do you have any? Am I wrong to think about the ones that I do have? I feel like most of the comments are going to be Callahan should already be fired, but that's okay. Let us know. If that's how you feel, drop it in the comments below. We'll be back tomorrow. State of the Titans. Where have they improved since last season? We're also going to grade Cam Ward's week 2 performance and look at that against his week 1 grade. So until then.
Thank God, because if we were just doing a where have they improved, we'd be doing a YouTube short instead of a podcast. So I'm really glad that we've got other things to talk about.
Until then, you all stay safe out there and tighten up.
A Broadway sports media production.